So, welcome, Nomi, to the Hands On Business Podcast, and welcome to all my listeners or viewers, depending on whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast. Now, Nomi is the founder and director at Shoot Business, and whilst the name indicates all the video and photography side of what you do, tell us in your own words what and who are Shoot Business.
Cool. Thank you very much, Hakeem. Pleasure to be here. And glad you're well, safe and happy in these times. But yeah, an honour to be invited over here. When you asked me, obviously, I bit your hand off at the opportunity to make me famous.
Well, I'll see what I can do, but I can't guarantee anything.
Oh dear. Well, anyway, no, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's just nice to talk to someone on the same level. But yeah, thanks for that introduction. As Hakeem rightly mentioned, my name is Nomi Farooq. I run a company called Shoot Business. We class it as a full-service media agency. So we tell stories and help brands grow with video, with media content. We work with various brands worldwide. We work with local brands as well and national brands in the UK. But we have a brilliant creative team of, video people, photography, marketers, graphic designers, all these creative people, that are experienced over the years. And we help brands grow with, awesome media content, essentially. And yeah, we've got projects going on in various areas, various creative projects, but Shoot Business is our engine. And it's been running for a number of years now, based in Manchester. And yeah, we're doing some wonderful stuff creatively.
Yeah, so from God's own country, Manchester. He's from the wrong side of Manchester, the blue side. So the less said about that, the better. And the topic for today is the key things to consider when outsourcing work to agencies. So you obviously are one, and we're hoping that you'll be able to give some advice. So the first question I have from you, or for you, should I say, is what's the main reason that people tend to come to you specifically to outsource?
Cool. That's a really good question. Why do people outsource? So, especially in the creative industry, it's very hard for companies to internally create a real creative environment for a lot of companies, and also to hire the right creative people. So when people use us, they're not just using one person; they're using anywhere between 3 and 10 creatives that work on their projects, and these are people who have built up experience over the years. Typically, if someone wants to use an agency, they want something else that's maybe not internal to the company. That could be from a creative aspect. It could be from experience. It could be to do with, with a lot of companies, what I find is they want an outside view of the company. A really progressive company, what happens is they create this enclosed environment, and the creativity drops, the ideas drop, and it's like being in a bubble, and you can't see yourself. So people really appreciate our consultancy side of things, where we can go in and analyze from an external eye, what direction they should take creatively on our projects.
Okay, yeah. So one of the main reasons which you just pulled out there was having a diverse view. They want a different view from the groupthink that they're currently getting. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So if someone comes to you, or someone wants to outsource, what would be the first piece of advice you'd give to someone if they told you they were planning to outsource a piece of work?
A lot of people jump to outsourcing a little too quickly, in my opinion. They think it's a solution that's going to make them loads of money because they've heard it. It's a buzzword, right? Let's outsource. We're growing. Let's outsource. From a client perspective, I think it's important for them to know exactly what they want. I've talked to many companies before, and they're not quite sure what they want. We're trying to work it out with them a lot of the time. So, be clear on what you want. What are you doing? How does your marketing strategy align with the company that you're using? So for our example, how does our awesome video production fit into your marketing strategy? Have you got a plan for it? Have you got a growth strategy for it? Or are you just producing a video for the sake of producing a video, which we don't advise? But I think the first point is for the client or the group or the team that's outsourcing to be clear on their objectives, and then work out, what needs outsourcing.
Yeah, no, I think that's good advice in anything you do in business. If you're clear on your objective, the chances are you'll get it right more than you get it wrong. That isn't often what people do. Often people, as you said, just outsource because either it's a buzzword or they think, oh, well, we can't do it, or we don't think we can do it, so give it to someone else without really knowing what it is that they're trying to do. So on that basis, what's the biggest pitfall you'd say people can fall into when they are outsourcing?
There could be a few things there, because I've been in the agency life for a number of years now, and we have a lot of clients who come to us who have had a bad experience with previous agencies. So I've picked up a lot of knowledge in terms of what's going wrong there. Like, some clients we work with have been through like 5 agencies before, and they've still not got to where they want to get to, and they've spent tens of thousands of pounds, whether it be on SEO, whether it be on video production, whether it be on social media management. The agency industry, I describe it sometimes as a cowboy industry right now, because there's no standardization. Anybody can come in and sell you the world, take thousands of pounds off you, and then not deliver, and you jump off to the next agency. So I think some of the pitfalls that people make is, don't just jump at the first agency that pops up. Every salesman, a salesperson in an agency is going to sell you the world, and they're going to look fantastic. But number one, tender it out. Pick at least 3 agencies which you think might be a suitable fit, and get them to pitch, get them to really talk to you and really spend time with them. If you're not satisfied after the first call or the first meeting, have another meeting with them. Don't be afraid to get to that point of satisfaction, and if they're not for you, they're not for you. It's like interviewing a candidate, right? You don't just pick the first person that walks through the door. You go through about maybe 10, 20, 30 people before you start to feel like making a decision. So I think it's the same with agencies. It's one of the pitfalls. You might use an agency too quickly, in my opinion. Another thing you could do is don't sign long contracts. Because clients I've spoke to in the past, they're stuck in 12-month contracts, and they're not happy after 2 months. So try to get shorter contracts, try to get a trial period. What we do with a lot of clients is we don't tie them into contracts. We say, try us out for a month or 2. Let's see how you feel after a couple of months. You get a feel for what we do. I don't just want to sell it. I want to, we want to show you guys. So, that's another thing you could potentially do, is just look for that trial period. Because whatever this agency does, could have a negative or positive impact on your business. So it's quite important, to check those couple of things, I think, to start with.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And it's interesting, because I think you probably need, as you referring to your previous answer, you need clarity, don't you? Because if you have clarity, then it's a lot easier to then choose an agency, because you know actually what you're looking for, and then which one of those 3 suits your needs better than the other. So okay, that's useful. And obviously we're still in a pandemic situation, obviously coming out in the not too distant future, one hopes. What have you seen with COVID? How has that impacted outsourcing and in your work specifically?
So in terms of our story, it's hard. We work with a lot of businesses, so I know the stories and stuff, but with our perspective, we're not the biggest agency, but we're like a small, nimble agency. We were able to adapt quite quickly. What we found was it's literally been a year. We're in March now. It's literally been a year. We've been in pretty much a lockdown. It was a bit of a shock, because we did a lot of events, for example, and you had these industries that we were in that were being heavily affected. So giving events as an example, when they announced the 3-week lockdown, we were literally looking to attend an event the week after in Manchester, and we were going to exhibit there. We were going to do everything there, and all of a sudden everything stopped. And we were in a position where we were looking to grow from March last year in various areas. And I think, like anybody else, everybody just stopped for a little while in shock, and nobody was moving. We work with a lot of marketing managers to help them with their objectives. We work with a lot of business owners. Budgets were getting cut. Obviously, we were a team of creatives, and I think when I thought about it, what I did was I just thought, right, okay, what is it I need to do? I need to keep people working, and I need to keep people earning. That's what my team wanted, and that's what they were requesting. They didn't want to break. They didn't want to sit at home on furlough, watching Netflix and drinking wine, maybe. But they wanted to be active, because especially for creatives, you can't keep us in one place at one time. But so then we just adapted. We thought, right, okay, everybody's going to be on social media. Everybody's going to need content. The content consumption has risen. We're the best in video production. We're the best in doing social media content. Let's just be patient, and let's just help people in this time as far as shoot business goes. So I just started speaking to a lot of marketing people and a lot of marketing managers and saying, look, do you need help with video? Do you need help with setting up video? Do you need help with, filming yourself? I was advising on, this was all for free. I was just advising on, how people can get into video, because people started picking up their phone and like filming themselves and stuff during this period. So I was just advising on that. And then another project that we set off, which you'll be aware of, is something called Vibe. So Vibe is, how can I describe it? Vibe is a social media publisher. So we have various channels and niches in there now. So one of them is Vibe Manchester. It currently has around 60,000 followers on Facebook, around 1 million engagements a month. I turned everybody's attention for the first couple of months towards Vibe. And I said, go out there and create some nice, inspirational, positive, creative content for the audiences on social media. And it was an outlet for us. It became an outlet for the first couple of months of lockdown. We started, grabbing some interesting stories in the community. We've been interviewing various people in different areas, and we were just getting content out there. And we were finding in this negative world, this positive content was really appreciated by people online. So that was our aim. Our aim is to produce positive, inspirational content on social media, which, has value in people's lives. So we have like something called Vibe Manchester. You can find it on Facebook. If you just search Vibe Manchester, you'll find it. And then we've got other niches like Vibe Business, Vibe Sports, Vibe Health. And these are all, again, we're just looking to do content in different areas. But at the moment, we've got the model right with Vibe Manchester, and we're just looking to expand this year on that side of things. And it's part and parcel with Shoot Business, because it's the same, it's pretty much the same creative team. It gives people a creative outlet, because sometimes in Shoot Business, you can be tied down with creative briefs, quite restricted. Sometimes the corporate client will tell you, be as creative as you want, but keep it in this box. But and that doesn't quite work. So with Vibe, it's a good outlet. And we have meetings every week, and I say to the guys, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you want to capture, go for it. There's no restriction. People go out and do various things. We've had loads of sort of live videos going up. Last week, we interviewed the CEO of Mind Manchester, and we were talking about mental health over Zoom. So it's all like just doing content, which is inspirational and positive. So in the first 3 months, that was our adaptation, if you like, and it's doing quite well. We're getting a lot of attention on Vibe Manchester right now, and it is growing quite fast. So I think it was a good move on my part to do that, because all the advice I was getting was from everybody around me. You can call it negative or not, but everybody was saying just pause, think about it, don't do anything. And that to me just didn't resonate. And I was like, this is, I've learned this maybe quite young in my entrepreneurial career is, observe the masses and do the opposite. So, that's obviously a famous quote from Napoleon Hill. So it's, that's what we did. Like, we literally saw everybody freeze and said, right, no, we're going to go full on with Vibe. We're going to open another 10 channels. Everybody's working every day, getting creative content out every week. And we were busy like for 2 months. And then what happened after 2-3 months, I found that people start to get used to the lockdown life. Marketing managers and owners thought, right, okay, we need to get our businesses back up. We need to, start investing again. There was a real need and drive for social content. Like, before there was probably some part of the marketing world that thought digital isn't as important still today. And I think this lockdown was a real kick up, for them to say, actually digital is the future. And it just meant I was speaking to people who didn't consider digital marketing or video marketing before. I'm starting to get into them conversations after about 3-4 months, and they're saying, yeah, we need video, we need social content. And, we just stuck at it, and we were persistent. And I think after 6 months, we were picking up work. And as an agency right now, I'd say we're relatively busy.
And do you think that that's consistent across the outsourcing world? Because I've seen a lot of marketing people on the market, so to speak. So it appears to me that lots of companies, the first people they cut when the recession, we can't call it a recession because it is, and COVID-19 hit and the lockdown, they just start laying off marketing people. So does that open up opportunities for outsourcing organizations?
It did. So there's two sides to this. As a business and as an agency, I think what happened to really big agencies that have got like 100 people or plus in their agency took a big hit. If their marketing budgets get cut, and they lose clients. They've got 100 staff to look after. And I know a lot of stories where people in agencies have just either been furloughed or laid off, unfortunately. And I think what we found was we were in the slipstream where we weren't too small, like a single freelancer who was also struggling on one side. We were small and nimble, and we were in a bit of a slipstream where we just adapted to people's needs in the middle. And the big agencies that were getting cut, we seem to be picking up some of that. And there's a need for actually to work with like a smaller agency, rather than the agency of the year or someone who's flexing, 100 or 150 people in their agency. It depends on the type of work as well, I suppose, because there's different types of agencies, right? From SEO to website to design to branding. So I think that no doubt, some of the outsourcing world will have suffered. And I think that decision comes down to value. So, how valuable is your outsourcing solution at that point? So, for example, something like sales and lead generation, if you're using an agency for that, you probably don't want to stop it in this period, because you need them leads to survive. Whereas if you're doing something else, which isn't as important and doesn't directly affect that bottom line, they might be in the first ones to go. And like I said, for us, a lot of our stuff is we built up really good relationships over the years with our clients, and they trust us, and we're very personable with them. And I think what we found is we just supported them even more in this period, and they appreciate that. So I think it's 50-50. I know people, it's really weird because I know people who have done even better in this period than they have in previous periods, and at the same time I've seen companies go under. So it's a real difficult one. I think there's a lot of factors involved. It's not just about the client, it's about how agencies are actually set up physically.
Yeah, no, that's probably very, very true. I think the way they're set up, and I think you mentioned it earlier, which I think is a key point, the value. Because if you're seen as a valuable resource and you're giving value, and specifically in this time and age where digital becomes even more significant, and I'm not going to say nobody's got good digital people in their organizations, but I've worked in lots of organizations, and the digital side of their business is always, it seems to be run by people who are young, because everyone in the business thinks, oh, they're young, so they can use Facebook, and then you can use LinkedIn, they can use these tools. Well, yeah, they might be able to use them personally, but that doesn't mean that they necessarily know how to turn that into a lead generation exercise, or that they understand it from a business point of view. So in terms of just taking aside coronavirus and the situation we're in at the moment, in a normal situation, would you always suggest someone considers outsourcing as an option, or are there times where you think actually you should just look internally?
Not necessarily. So it depends. It's all like we deal with clients on a client basis, because it depends. Again, it depends on the type of agency. So if we're a video marketing agency essentially, and you need to weigh up, like in our video productions, there's about 5 to 10 people involved, behind the scenes, right? As you already know, and there's a minimum of 3 people involved on any of our video productions a lot of the time, and so it's not just a case of hiring one videographer and expecting a result that we produce. So it depends on the companies. I think if someone is going to set up a video department, for example, they need to consider more than just hiring one person. And I think that is something people need to, companies will need to invest in heavily. If you take the big corporates, they will have a video department and a media department. They don't need to outsource the social media. They've got 10 people doing the social media, in-house. Some companies create their own studios, within the company. It depends on the business. If you're an educational company, for example, that produces educational content every single week digitally, it's in your benefit to probably have a studio or a 3 or 5 man team that does that all the time. It's the core of your business. At the same time, I've worked with big corporates. I work with people like NHS and big pharma companies and big corporates and stuff. and they get to a level where they're not as agile, so they can't really do some of these things, and then they come back and come again. So I think it's both. I think it depends on the company. I've been looking at potentially consulting with companies on how they can build a video department within the companies. And that for us is another service in terms of our consultancy side. But I think there's more to it than just hiring a few people. It needs a full structure. With something like what we do, it needs a full structure and everything else. If you've got an SEO agency, for example, you may hire a couple of SEO people who are experienced, and that might be sufficient for your needs, and that's it. That could work, but I think it all depends on the company, Hakeem.
Okay, no problem. And just following on from that question, so has anyone ever come to you where you've said, actually, I don't think you need me? And if so, what was the circumstance?
In terms of me saying to a client,
someone coming to you and sort of like asking for your services, and once you've reviewed it, you're thinking, actually, don't really think you need shoot business.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, I'm of the view that most businesses need video nowadays.
Yeah.
Just the way the world is, the way everything is right now, like how can you not have a video? It's like back in the day when companies didn't have a website. and everybody's saying you have to have a website. Like if you're a business, you have to have a website. And I think it's like that with having social media pages and having video content right now. If you've not got a video, it's like, you're trying to grow, or do you want people to know about your company? So I am of that view. I think the only people that I recommend not take video is it might be a startup. And it's too early, and they want to jump to video, and they've not got a decent website, they've not got anything happening on the conversion or digital strategy. They're just going to end up paying for something and then going backwards. So a lot of the time what I say to them people is, look, you've not got a website, you're a startup, I understand you want people to know. If all you want to do is get video out there, like nowadays, like I'm not afraid to say, you can pick up your phone nowadays, the way phones are nowadays, recording them in 4K. Just blog yourself, sorry. So vlogs are still quite powerful. They don't need to be touched up. You've done it, I've done it. I know a lot of people have done it. Pick up your phone. If you want to be fancy, put it on one of the selfie sticks and film yourself and tell people who you are and about your company. You're just a startup. Don't worry about the rough edges of the video. Just go for it. And I will usually advise them, that's how if you want to get into video quickly, just do that and post it. Don't be afraid of how you look or what's what. But like if they're not got a website and they're not, like it's too early, like I usually say to them, look, come back to me in 6 months or 12 months once you're more ready. Oh,
man with integrity in the outsourcing world. Very, very nice to hear that, Nomi. So interestingly enough, one of the main reasons I hear when people are wanting to outsource or they don't want to outsource, it's always around cost. It's either people are thinking, oh, it's going to be a lot cheaper, so I'm going to do it. It'd be cheaper to outsource it than do it myself. Or the converse is also true, that they think, oh, it's going to be far too expensive. So what's your view on that? Should that be driving the decision, the actual cost?
No, I don't think so. I could talk about a few things here. So from an agency perspective, if you're an agency out there, it's important to know your value. I've taken a lot of this advice from you as well, Hakeem, and be confident on what your value is. When I was first starting, I remember I was like a one-man team and I quoted for a project. I won't mention who it is, but I was quoted against 3 people, and the end result was we loved what you do and you're probably the best person to provide it, but you're too cheap. So I was like, really? So yeah, because they went for a guy who like quoted like triple, and it was an early lesson for me that be confident of your value. Like other people will see it. If they see it and they'll go for it. And there's an old saying as well on the client side, you get what you pay for. If something is too cheap in agency life, it's probably not going to benefit you. Like from experience, like I said, I've worked with a lot of companies who have been through about 5 or 10 agencies before they've come to us. And I know all these things that happen. And a lot of the time they've snapped because it's cheap and said, oh, I'll go for it. It's cheap. 3 months later, it's just costing them more in everything else, because the performance isn't there. And that's what will happen. Like, people will try to tie in. So don't worry about cost. First, decide who's the most valuable to you, who is the right person, right fit, the right team, the right skills. And and who's aligned with that vision. Because you're going to be spending months with these people, so you need to, like, you're going to learn over time, but that's the first thing you should look at. Just forget about the cost. Now, if cost, obviously everybody's got a budget, whether you're a startup or whether you're a big corporate, everybody's got a budget. Now, if they are outside your budget, don't be afraid to say that's we really like you guys. We want to work with you. We want to grow with you. Give them some benefits and say, look, this is our budget. Unfortunately, is there something you can do? Is there something we can change here in the quote? And that will be more beneficial for you, in my opinion, if you take that approach. I'm giving clients a way to negotiate with me.
You are, but the fact of the matter is if they understand the value and you can demonstrate the value, then people generally will pay. And it is an interesting point that most people, if something is too cheap, they think, oh, well, it can't be that good then. And when something's 5 times the price, they automatically think it must be quality. So I think your advice that you gave earlier about, well, actually understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, understand what it is that those agencies can offer is critical in this particular situation. So in terms of working with an agency, what's the best way to work with an agency? As I always find out that you end up paying much more than you bargain for, because you get a quote, and then your industry is a perfect case in point. So you get a quote and you think, this is fantastic, I've got the budget signed off, and then you start getting amends and little add-ons and you need to pay for that and we didn't quote for this. So what's the best way to avoid that, so that you're going to get what you've actually been quoted for?
Cool. It's an important point, actually, and people take advice, especially in the video industry. The costs spiral out of control, and video production has changed a lot over the last 10 years. We don't need to spend Hollywood budgets on video production anymore. Technology's moved on. There's more creative people in the world. There's different techniques. So the cost of production actually has come down quite significantly. So I think in terms of additional costs, we work with businesses in 2 ways. So we do one-off productions. We'll quote a one-off production and be part of a video marketing campaign. We give it off, and we work on a retainer basis as well, where every month we're loading companies with powerful video content, consistency every month at a flat rate. And that is very important, to have that discussion with the agency and say, whether it's a one-off, or a regular thing, is to say, is this a capped cost? Because we make it quite clear this is a capped cost.
Okay.
And there'll be no additional things. This is just a feature of our video productions. We offer unlimited edits, which 90% of the times work to our advantage. No one comes back with 100 revisions, but it's to give clients more comfortable feeling that there's going to be no additional cost here. Because one of the major things in video production is they start charging you by the hour after the second round of revisions, and they might be charging you 150, 250 pound an hour for edits after that. So we say, look, you can keep coming back to us until the sign off. We don't care how many revisions you have, keep coming back to us, making changes. When you're happy, we're happy. So little things like that. So working out where actually the cost is. If someone quotes you for video production and mentions locations, they need to clarify that. Is the location included in the budget? Are we supposed to hire there's so many costs in video productions, little things that add up: props, actors, models, all this stuff. You need to be clear on all these features. So a simple question would be, is that all included?
Yeah.
And if they say no, you're going to have to pay for models, you're going to have to pay for this, you're going to have to pay for this. That's a bit of a bad sign if they start listing stuff off like that. It's a bit like, what they're quoting for then. So if there's, the only time I do that is if there's unsurety at the time of the quote. So the client might turn around and say, oh, we don't know whether we want 5 models or 10 models at the moment. We're just working it out and I'm still quoting. I will just say, look, I'm going to quote you for 5, and that is done. And if there's additional, you find out, then that is it. That's the price. So if there's that, it all comes back down to clarity from the client. If they've got clarity, they'll then have clarity on the cost. So ask the right questions on the costs when it comes. But that's how we do it in the video industry.
Yeah, no, I think that's good advice actually, because I find it for myself whenever I'm hiring an agency, that's the key thing that I do is I'm quite meticulous in going through the contract, but then asking loads of different scenarios. All right, so if we do this, how much is that going to cost? And if we do that, and then you soon get to the bottom of, oh, actually, I thought you said it was a cap cost, but
Yeah.
you've just said if I do this,
Yeah.
then you're going to charge me a bit extra for X, Y, and Z. So I think you're right. It's about that clarity of knowing exactly what it is that you want to do and what you want to achieve, and
100%.
then boxing out those costs. Because I do see it a lot, or I have seen it a lot, should I say, where people hire an agency and then say, "Oh, I thought it was only going to be $5,000, and I've already spent 15 grand." And you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not sure whether that's the agency or the person who's commissioned the agency who's at fault there. So
yeah, 100%. I agree.
That's interesting. And so another question that often comes up when you're talking about outsourcing is obviously if you've got an in-house business, then the people who are running it understand the business, they understand the products, they understand the way that things should be posted for that particular organization. So how do you make sure that you get an agency up to scratch quickly so that they get the pulse of the business, so that when they're doing a video or social media or a website, it looks like it's internal, so it looks like an extension of the department rather than, oh well, this is just an agency that they've spent loads of money on?
Yeah, there's a few things you can do there. I think when you first commission an agency, there's a period there of training and getting to know the people. And I think it's very important. Obviously, at the moment we're in COVID, it's hard to meet, but we've got Zoom like we are doing now. And it's important to have constant touch points and say, look, let's have a meeting every week if needed. I've been with companies that have hundreds of products, for example, and it might be an industry we're not aware of. And knowledge is important. And it's important, like some companies, what they've done is we've had like training sessions with like product managers, and they go through the product. This is what it is. This is our audience. And it's really beneficial to us as an agency to go through all that and be aligned with all that, in my opinion. So, that's one thing. And I think it, like any business, like not just agency, like communication is just the key, like between people, between agencies. We use software. Obviously, we use Zoom a lot now. We use Trello. We use project management tools. And we make sure our clients are on the same page and vice versa. And that's what it's all about. But I think in terms of your question, are you saying how to make an agency maybe look internal from the outside, you mean?
Yeah, well, I suppose yes. So not necessarily look internal, but just as you mentioned there, picking up the pulse of the business, so that actually it's not, we've been working as an organization like this for the past 5 years, then the agency comes in, doesn't really understand the business, and therefore they produce a video or they produce a piece of work which is good quality, but it's very obvious to the outside world this is not the company. This is like something that's been completely outsourced, and you lose that congruence.
100%. Yeah. Back to communication. So with what we do, again, just using as an example, a marketing department commissions us to produce a video that's going to be part of a 3-month campaign later in the year. Shows the marketing strategy, shows the whole marketing, like from top to bottom, what is going on, and then shows where we fit in as well. Yeah. So we've got the bigger picture then, and I find that's useful most of the time. There's basic stuff and technical stuff like sharing brand guidelines, how your brand looks, showing them videos you do like, showing them what to do, showing them what not to do when it comes to certain things. And we do that with brand guidelines. But I think when you understand and put yourself in the shoes of the marketing manager and what they're trying to achieve, then I think the agency that you use will be on the same page as you.
Yeah, no, and that answers probably a few of my other questions that people are always asking me. Well, how do you ensure that you don't get misalignment, which you've already answered in terms of communication? I think a lot of it does come down to communication and clarity from both sides. And I think that point you just made there about making sure that people, i.e. outside people, agencies, etc., see the bigger picture is vital. Because I think that when I've been into a lot of businesses where I've had to then sort out an agency, because the people internally say, oh, this agency is terrible, oh, I can't believe it, they've not done this, they've not done X, they've not done Y. And when you actually sit down and speak to them, you think, right, well, they don't really know the purpose of why they've been brought in, and the people who are briefing them, in fact, don't really understand the strategy. And therefore, if you personally don't understand the strategy, you find it very difficult to brief somebody. So the agency goes off in one direction, and everyone in the business is expecting something different. And then that starts leading to problems. And also, again, it comes down to communication, because I think you should always set those communication guidelines at the beginning. If you can have a monthly meeting or a weekly meeting or whatever it is, then people tend to not have a misalignment of objectives because you're constantly speaking. So I think the communication is the thing that stands out for me in that conversation, because I think that eliminates, or would eliminate, 90% of the problems that I've seen between organizations and outsourced agencies. And just as you would if you were onboarding a new person, I think you mentioned it. Well, you did mention it. You train the person, you'd let them know where they fit within the organizational structure, whether they're internal or external, and you'd also make sure they understand what's the strategy, where are we trying to get to. So I think they're all really good, important things, because one of the questions I was going to talk about is, how do you get a harmonious relationship? And I think again it comes down to that communication piece.
I agree.
So that's very useful. So if you were to give 3 pieces of advice around, I'm about to outsource, and I come to you and say, right, I'm about to outsource. It's not in your sphere, so you can't say you choose shoot business. It's something completely different. I'm saying I'm about to outsource, and I'm a bit concerned about using agencies. What advice would you give? 3 key points, if you can.
3 key points. So first point is, we've touched on these already in this conversation. Clarity. Get yourself first into clarity yourself on your requirements, exactly what you want. Even put down what you don't want, if that's what you know at that time. Like be as clear as possible. And if you're in a team, so like you can have a single marketing manager in a company, but you might have a marketing team, make sure everybody's on the same page and clarified. So not everybody has got their own clarity. You're all on the same page, basically. Because I've worked with companies in the past. There'll be about 3-4 people in the marketing team. Person A will say we want it like this. Person B will say we want it like this, and person C will say completely different. And then we're in the middle saying, okay, what is it we're going to do here? So it doesn't help with the relationship. So clarity, like we've touched on, is very important. Value, determine value. What is the value of your outsourcing? What objectives will it hit for you as a business, or the marketing department, or a business owner, depending on who you are. Determine value. And
so just on that, so when you're saying value, are you talking about cash value or the other things?
It depends on what the objective is. If the objective is these videos are meant to increase revenue, we've not mentioned videos, but this agency, whatever you're doing, is meant to increase the revenue or the profit of the company. Is it meant to hit a certain marketing objective? Is it educational thing? Like different things have different objectives, right? So it's just about like working out what that is and how that will or will not help that objective. So that's number 2. Number 3, I would say work with people you like.
that helps.
Now, that might sound like you're just shunning skills to one side, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying, generally with agencies, you want a long-term relationship. Whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Like we work with companies for like 5 years. They've got to like you, and you've got to like them even. And like no matter how talented we are, if it wasn't for our relationships and our personability, like we wouldn't be able to hold the relationships. Yeah. So I think, like, obviously you want to work, skills are important. You expect everybody that tenders will have the skills.
Yeah.
Right. That's a given. You're not going to tender for somebody who doesn't know how to use a video camera or knows how to do SEO. That should be a basic requirement. Work with people you want to work with. Are they on your level? Do they believe in your values? I'm not talking about even personal values. I'm talking about company values. Are they aligned with you? Because things can improve like, don't expect an agency or person to come along and never make a mistake.
Mm.
They're all going to make mistakes. Let me tell you that straight off. There's no agency out there, that's not going to make a mistake. But what you judge them on is what they do afterwards. Are they going to improve? Because it's like employing a person. Like, they make a mistake, you train them, and 6 months later they become an asset, right? If you treat them right. So it's the same with agencies. Like, at that point, unfortunately, like I've had, some of the stories are awful, with some of the people, and especially in the video industry, there's been video agencies work with our previous clients and they're unprofessional. They don't look good in front of their own clients. They don't communicate properly. They can't take criticism. And if that's their personality and they're not personable, then, how are you going to work with this person? The idea of the agency is to decrease your stress, not increase your stress.
Yeah.
So that would be my third point. Look for some good people.
No, thank you very much. I think that's good advice. That when I get the feedback, what people like about my podcast is that I always try and narrow people down to a few pieces of nuggets, because I hope everyone watches every single minute of the video, but sometimes they don't. So they're always looking for, well, give me a few nuggets so that if I don't watch the whole thing or I get called away, then at least I've got some key takeaways. So moving on, and hopefully this is a question that I know I've been asked by lots of people. So you've got lots of agencies, lots of outsourcing agencies, you've got full marketing agencies, and then you've got some people who specialize in sectors. So you've got generic agencies who just say, yeah, we do everything. And then you've got some that maybe are pharmaceutical agencies, or they work, as you said, in the educational sector. So would you say, if I'm looking for an agency, would you say, right, well, just look at, because I'm in healthcare, would you say just go and look for healthcare agencies, or would you say, well, actually, no, a generic agency might be better?
It's a double-edged sword, I would say. So obviously we picked up work with clients in an industries we've never been in. So they've seen value in us somewhere else. So I'm just giving examples here. In certain industries, we've gone to clients, and I've kind of tried to probe a little bit as to why they've not gone for an expert agency in that area and decided to use us. And what I've found is the whole point of the creative industry, they're trying to be different. So, they don't get that if they're in that bubble of agencies that only work with that industry. So if, they themselves have that clarity and what they want, and they want, everything else, it doesn't matter, where the agency is from or the background, because you're going to use them for a certain output, which is going to be different to everybody else. And that's the whole point of it. What concerns in some industries where the agency is specific to that industry, and say that agency has 100 clients who are your competitors, that could be a concern to a competitor. And I've had this question raised before, and people have not used certain agencies for that reason. Now, obviously, what the integrity is of that agency, I don't know, but they don't feel comfortable that this guy, these people are running 20 social media channels, which are all your competitors in the exact same industry, because are you absolutely sure that you are bespoke to them then?
It's an interesting point, because lots of agents will say, oh yeah, especially the bigger ones, oh, we've got firewalls, and they'll tell you all the things they do to prevent it. But you think, right, okay, but you work in the same company, you probably still go for lunch together. It's going to be very difficult to go for lunch together and you never talk about work or what you're doing or what you're working on. And it's interesting what you were saying about, you said it right at the beginning about diverse opinion and actually getting someone to have a different view from you. And possibly, if you're getting an agency which is a key, specialist in healthcare or a specialist in education, as you just said, you're probably going to get the same sort of ideas everyone else is getting, as opposed to someone coming in and looking at your business a bit differently. So I think you're right. It depends on the situation.
I mean, it works both ways, Hakeem. So, it's nice to have that experience. So, if you're a pharmaceutical company and you work in, I don't know, oncology, for example, it'd be nice that the people have some experience of oncology or working with doctors, and certain things. And you can check these with the people, and it's nice to have a little bit of experience. But it all depends on the client. So if that department and person decides, I'm going to skill this agency up so they're at the level where they tick them boxes within a month.
Yeah.
You know, this is how you work with, you know, people in oncology. This is how you work with doctors. This is, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, you could bring them up to speed, and within 3 months, they could be quite a valuable agency to you. So it works both ways. Do look for experience. I'm not saying don't look for experience. Like, it's nice to look for experience. But at the same time, it's not the be all and end all. Like, I wouldn't make it limit, you know, especially if you're looking for something different and creative, like leave your options open on both sides, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. And the follow-up question is around the same sort of thing, but more around the actual type of agency. So you've got agencies who are full marketing mix agencies. You've got agencies that specialize in certain things, such as video, photography. So if I'm going to get some video stuff, or I'm going to get SEO, would you suggest that I should be going for a specific agency who focuses on that, or someone who does the full marketing mix?
We work in both ways. So again, it comes back down to that question of who it is. So there's some companies we work with. We do the social media, we do the digital marketing, we do the Google ads, we do the web development, we do the video, the photo, the social content. Anything digital just comes to us. And that has been built up through our experience.
Yeah.
We've not sold it as that, but they see us as that trustworthy knowledge hub that will get these things done. We do it for our own businesses. We do it for our projects. One of the clients I know, we weren't even into social media management. And one of the clients who we did video for, they've been through about 4 or 5 agencies, and they're like, Nomi, you know everything about this. Like, why are we not using you? Like, please, can you do it and take over? And that's how it's come about. So we've not sold ourselves as that, but you need to, nowadays, you do need a multi-skilled agency, in my opinion. There was a time, and I'm giving an example for video production agencies, where you would hire a video agency that just does video really, really well. And yes, they will probably produce a fantastic video, but they have no clue about marketing. They have no clue about marketing objectives, audiences, all these things that actually make a powerful video nowadays. Like, you can't do it. So, I mean, how we've made ourselves different is we do have the brilliant video production in our hands. We also have the marketing experience on how to sell, and we merge that somehow, and it becomes really powerful for clients. So I would say be wary of people who are too far from the field. Yeah. So, you know, if you've got an agency that does video, and then you've got an agency that does app development, or, you know, something quite far from video, that might be a bit of a concern. But if someone does video and they do photography and they do a bit of graphics, they're all linked and overlapped. Yeah. You probably want that mix. Look for a mix, but when it's literally a jack of all trades across all the board, then that's a worrying sign.
All right, okay. No, thank you. That's clear enough. So I've got now a few questions, what we're going to call a quick fire round. The strangest location you ever had for a shoot?
No comment. I'm just joking. Is this for over 18s? I'm just joking.
Yeah, no, it's for over 18s. Yeah. I always click on the video, not for kids.
I wouldn't say the strangest. It is kind of strange, but I found myself on the David Attenborough ship, Boaty McBoatface, while it was being built. I was on the ship.
That's interesting.
Walking around the ship.
All right. So were you shooting on that ship? Or all right.
Yeah, we were shooting for the firm that builds the ship.
All right. Okay. So promo.
Absolutely.
All right. Very nice. All right. And then your longest shoot?
It's got to be like the event days, like shooting seminars all days. I don't know exactly which ones, but the pharmaceutical one's gone quite a bit. They will be the longest ones. Like, we've been fortunate enough to go to different countries with these, and it kind of balances it out. But we've literally been in shoots from 8 o'clock in the morning to they have their night meetings as well, don't they, these guys? So 10 o'clock at night. And
then longest shoot in terms of, because that's the longest. I suppose that's just the longest one-day shoot. Do you do multiple day shoots in certain locations?
Yeah, absolutely. So we finished a project recently for a construction company in Manchester for their new apartments and stuff. That was, I think, 4 or 5 days of shooting.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough. That's almost a mini film, that.
Quite intense.
And then the most dangerous shoot that you've ever done?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say. I don't know if we broke like some rules of doing that one. Anyway, we have a guy called Val the Viking. He's our daredevil. So he hangs out of windows, jumps off buildings and all kinds of stuff with his stabilizer just to get that perfect shot. But I'm just trying to think of his probably most dangerous thing. I don't know, probably hanging out a car window or something.
Oh dear. And well, yeah, we'll move on from there. I won't ask about your health and safety credentials hanging out car windows. So, all right, and then the last one is the one shoot that you won't forget.
One shoot that I will never forget. We did a shoot a couple of Christmases ago with a really young boy. I forget his age. He must have been 6 or 8, and he had Down syndrome. And it was his first speaking role. So we were doing it. It was just nice to give him that opportunity and see him happy. And it was just so nice to see his mother. I'm sorry, I'm getting really cheesy and mushy over here. I'm pulling on the heartstrings, but it was just satisfying to see that we gave him his first speaking role, and listening to his mother tell stories about how he kept getting rejected because of his condition for certain roles and stuff. It was nice to make him Angel Gabriel was the role that he played.
Oh, okay.
And it was just nice to give him that role, to be honest.
Oh, very nice. Oh, well, that's a nice one on which to finish. A sentimental, mushy one which will pull on everyone's heartstrings. So thank you very much, Nomi, for that. From my point of view, the key thing I take away from that, actually, which is really good and really valuable, is about communication with your agencies when you're outsourcing, and also clarity on why you're doing it and what you're trying to achieve from it, and bringing that agency to be almost like an extension of your team. And if you do those sorts of things, the likelihood is that you'll have success and it'll be a pleasurable working experience. So on that note, I thank you again for joining me, and I say thank you very much for imparting your wisdom.